Hey guys, and welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be talking about the exotic hand cannon Thorn, and I'm going to be answering the question whether or not it's still worth using today. Now I know I'm jumping on this train a little late, but that's the funny thing about RNG. You just never know what you're going to get. But back in year 1, Thorn was quite possibly the most feared weapon in Destiny. You had to do a ridiculous quest in order to get it, but it was well worth it in the end. Back in that day, Thorn alongside Gjallarhorn were the weapons to have. If you didn't have them, you wanted them. But as popularity grew for Thorn, the dislike also grew for it. So many people hated going up against it and so voiced their opinions against it. Thorn was then hit by nerfs and it was hit hard. Even in year 2 when it wasn't even relevant anymore, it still continued to get nerfed. Bungie even released the Memory of Silmar artifact to go up against Thorn. But that was the power that Thorn had, and that's what people hated. We'll go over the changes in just a little bit, but first, let's have a closer look at Thorn. So the description reads, to rend one's enemies is to see them not as equals, but objects, hollow of spirit and meaning. Having a look at the muzzles, we have Accurized Ballistics, Field Choke, Aggressive Ballistics, Final Round, the last round of the magazine deals bonus damage, Snapshot, Send It, Perfect Balance, and finally its eccentric perk, Mark of the Devourer. Rounds pierce targets and cause lingering damage over time. Aesthetically speaking, Thorn was always one of my favorites. It looks dark and evil and it just looks like it could kick some serious ass. One thing that I always liked about Thorn is the sights. It's large and easy to see, especially compared to other hand cannons, which made it a lot easier to aim. Also, it sounds awesome, and rather than shooting bullets, it shoots darts. Could you imagine getting hit by one of those? Moving on to stats, we're going to see 32 rate of fire, 68 impact, 29 range, 31 stability, 43 reload, 50 aim assist, 30 equip speed, 80 recoil direction, and 16 zoom. So what exactly happened to Thorn? It not only was affected by the overall hand cannon nerf from Weapon Tuning 2.0, so you saw things such as damage fall off starting closer to the player, a small reduction in accuracy when aiming down the sights, hip fire accuracy was also reduced. They reduced the overall magazine size for all base inventory stats. The zoom was also decreased, but Thorn was also hit with its own specific nerfs. More or less for its Mark of the Devourer perk, which is the one thing that everybody hated. First, they reduced the amount of damage pulses to 4. Then the effect that you had on your screen once you were hit by a dart was also reduced, so it was more of a clear view rather than just seeing green all the time. Then the base damage of the poison was reduced to around 1/3 of what it previously did. So in PvP, you were looking at doing 7 damage before, now it only does 2. But let's talk about PvE for a little bit. Overall, this weapon still performs well. The combination of final round, its fast rate of fire, and its damage over time allow the user to distribute a fair bit of damage to its enemies. You're still able to land a couple shots and move on to the next enemy knowing that the poison will finish the first enemy off. When it comes to shielded enemies, Thorn's damage over time does a decent job at making sure their shield stays down so you can finish them off. Now, it may take a little bit longer than before, but at least it still gets the job done. One thing I did notice is that after the changes to the amount of reserve ammo hand cannons can hold, I was running out of primary ammo quite a bit and I was left searching for ammo rather than dealing damage to the enemies. Even after all these changes, Thorn is still a lot of fun to use in PvE. I just really enjoy spamming that fire button and listening to the sound of it. It just brings back a lot of memories from year 1. In PvP, on the other hand, it has a bit of a different story. Do you guys remember being able to two-shot someone from across the map and let the poison take over while you move on to your next opponent? Well, those days are gone. Having a reduction in the base range stat is one of the problems that it has. Nowadays, hand cannons need a range of at least 60 in order to be effective. Without that, you're better off just dismantling the gun. This forces users to select the Send It perk in order to get the more consistent experience. Unfortunately, this renders any possible combination with Snapshot or Perfect Balance virtually useless. Having a reduction in its overall accuracy is a problem too. A lot of the times when firing the gun, it felt like I was locked onto the opponent, like you just saw, only to find out that I was missing my shots and losing them one-on-one encounters. Now, probably the biggest issue with this gun is the nerf to its Mark of the Devourer perk. This was the one thing that made it feel exotic. Now, its poison merely tickles an opponent to death. In my opinion, the reduction in the damage was a bit too drastic. Now, I do agree with the idea, but what they should have done was reduce the damage of the poison to 5 rather than 2. This would at least make the gun worth the exotic slot. Especially with the introduction of the artifact, if you didn't like getting killed by Thorn, just use the artifact to counter it. Overall though, Thorn is just a shadow of its former self. After all the changes, you get a very inconsistent experience. Don't get me wrong, you can still 3-shot someone in the Crucible as long as you get a headshot, but the gun just doesn't feel exotic anymore. Things like the Vendor Palindrome or even an Ill Will with a decent roll can and do outperform Thorn, which is sad because I was really excited about it coming back. For now, Thorn is just going back into my vault. I hope you guys found this review helpful. If you want more reviews like this video and subscribe to my channel. But as always, my name is Cece and I am the Red Titan. Thanks and take care.